Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Flavor in Your Ear. Happy New Year once again. This is your boy Curtis. I am here today with my brother Sheikh Matthew. How you doing today, brother?
Oh, that's marvelous, marvelous. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get into our topic, I do just want to introduce this brother. He has been a blessing in my life on so many different levels, like so many different levels. But two things that sticks out, and as far as me understanding myself, he has been a spiritual guide like no other for me to tackle the enemy, and also wealth. When it comes to wealth, I had a mentality of understanding it, at least I thought, but I still had that get back mentality up until I met this gentleman. He has changed my life around. Even more on a personal level, I never had a grandfather. Both of my grandfathers are dad as when I was a little boy, so I never had a chance to get to know them. This man has been like a grandfather to me. I mean, just with his love, with his kindness. I mean, he welcomed me in for who I am, and that alone, I thank you, brother. Like really for the love.
My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure, sir. Yes, sir.
So please, Sheikh Matthew, say something about yourself.
Oh well, hey, all the Sheikh is that's a name, say like for a bishop or a priest or something. It's because we give guidance, we guide people. We try to guide people to their goals, and because human beings are spiritual beings having a human experience, we must be able to address their humanity. And so the humanity, through the humanity, the humane part, the mind has to think a certain way about certain things about that body. That when the mind is thinking in terms of things that are going to be beneficial to that body, that mind has to think of everything. How is it going to help it mentally? How is it's going to be beneficial physically? How is it going to be beneficial spiritually? How is it going to be beneficial financially and socially, politically, ethically, and morally? So that spiritual part of the human being that's from the Creator is in. This is like a suit, a body. Your body is not you, and you're not your body. And a lot of people cannot make the distinction, and so therefore they take the full credit of everything. Maybe good or evil that happens to them in their lives, but they don't realize how to protect their bodies, how to protect their minds, how to protect their souls. There's knowledge for everything. There's knowledge for the mind, there's knowledge for the body, there's knowledge for the soul. It's my knowledge for financial, to be financially independent. So the thing is that in life, people need to have mentorship that address the things that we believe in, the things that we conceive, and the things that we want to achieve.
Absolutely.
And everyone wants to be happy, and so everyone has to be balanced. You just can't be all spiritual and don't want physical things. You can't be all physical and don't have spiritual needs. So the thing is that the human being has to have a balance.
Absolutely.
They have to have, it's like the two wings. We got two eyes, we got two nostrils, we got two lips, we got two ears, we got two arms, we got two legs. That's the balance. We have to have that balance. We don't have that balance. How long could you just hop on one leg?
It makes sense. Even with that balance is so key because even with the spiritual side and economical side, it's off balance like crazy. It being like this, now that I'm woke, I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing it not only affect the people before me, people of my generation, definitely the people before me. One thing that you helped me out with, brother, when it comes to balance, fight the enemy on the inside before you go fight the enemy on the outside. I just did a confessional called Curtis versus Kurt, and there was a lot with a battle. And once again, this brother, my mentor, one of my spiritual leaders, he taught me how to fight the enemy on the inside. So often we gun-ho to try to tackle everything else, but we still got war raging within us. If you can break that down, brother, and maybe help somebody else recognize what this balance is needed in their life, and I think it starts with fighting that devil within. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And that is very, very important. according to traditional knowledge, when the Creator created the ego was something created. When he created the ego, he told the ego to go forward and it came backwards. He told it to go backwards and it came forward. He asked the God asked the ego, says, who am I? The ego says, I am me and you are you. So God put the ego in extreme temperatures for 1,000 years. Brought the ego out, asked the ego, who am I? I am me and you are you. Then he put it in fire for 1,000 years and brought it out. And he asked the ego, who am I? The ego says, I am me and you are you. Still making a distinction. So then he had the ego to fast for 1,000 years. And when the ego came out, God says, who am I? Who are you? Ego says, there's no God but you. So this is why all the prophets in the Old Testament, New Testament, Quran had to fast. And in fasting, it gave them the ability to leave their physical needs and realize that their spiritual needs was the greater need that continued to increase, and that it had the authority over any physical. So when we listen to it, then we begin to go up, because the mind, once the mind, which is rebellious, if it's not in tune to that part of us that's from the Creator, it becomes a master, and it becomes like a Pharaoh.
Yes.
We read about Pharaoh.
Yes.
We know what Pharaoh did, why Moses had to come to him and check him and say, hey, you know, there's no God but God. You claiming to be God. And on the other hand, Moses was a double-headed sword here. Now Moses is coming as a servant with his ego. His ego was serving the Creator, to bringing goodness to the Creator, but Pharaoh was serving himself. That's what they call selfish. Moses was selfless. He was bringing the good to the people. He was bringing abundance to the people. He was teaching the people how to think. He was teaching the people how to act toward each other. It was a carryover from what all of them did. Jesus did the same thing. Moses did the same thing. Abraham did the same thing. David did the same thing. Muhammad did the same thing. They all brought that to people. That should be a common knowledge to keep their balance. They didn't say don't enjoy yourself. The Creator wants us to enjoy ourselves. But he says don't forget about yourself. When you forget about the balance, you become imbalanced. You become erratic. You become crazy. You become arrogant. You become full of pride. You become angry. You start to hate. You start to work from a grafted mentality.
So balance is key, not just on a natural level, but really deep on the spiritual level. Because if you ain't got that correct, you lost, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
You lost. And you probably facing false hope, false identity. I mean, you probably chasing so many things that ain't even of nothing anyway. Because your perspective is off key because of that spiritual balance.
Right.
Please continue.
Well, it's amazing, because the thing is, it's like, I've studied the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Quran. I grew up in an apostolic church. I went to a Catholic high school. I went to an African Methodist college, and I lived in an Islamic country for 5 years. I studied the purified pages of Abraham. I studied the Psalms of David. I studied the laws of Moses. I studied the Gospel of Jesus. I studied the Quran of Muhammad. And when I read, the common thread there is that seek ye first the kingdom of heaven through righteousness, fighting everything that is not you. And then you reach the greater good of yourself, and all things will be given unto you. Now you'll be able to ink what you think. See, you're able to manifest on all levels without leaving your soul. Because if you're just on one level of you manifesting, you're doing magic, you're doing things, and you're manifesting some material things, turning maybe some things to other things, then that's an imbalance.
Yes.
But to have the balance of being able to transform, it's like we see a good example. Creator always gives us good examples of and signs and symbols. You look at everybody's seen a caterpillar.
Yes.
We've seen them walking them down and crawling and trying to lift their head up and can't lift their head up so much. And then they go up into a tree and go into a cocoon. And then they cocoon for a while and they come out as a butterfly. We've seen a total transformation. That's a sign
Yes.
of the ability of the human being to transform their minds.
Yes.
See, we fail and we slack off and we lose from the lack of knowledge and understanding and the lack of vision and the inability to reach those visions through action.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah, even like the picture tone, action. A lot of us ain't taking action. So how can we get the balance? Balance is key. We need to fight the enemy within before we can even fight the enemy on the outside. You brought up ego. How can a person get this ego in check? Those that don't have control over their ego. At least they say they don't have control. They're so conditioned. They have very little discipline. How can a person get control of the enemy within so they can stop being defeated in 2019?
Well, first of all, you have to sit with yourself and ask yourself the question, why was I created? Who created me? If there was a creator, what does that creator want me to do? Because you see that people are born. You see that people are dying. You see that at one point, no one in the womb of a mother, the mother didn't even know that she was with child. Then all of a sudden, based on the monthly cycle is off and it's like not the same, it's not normal. It's, well, what's going on? Through further investigation, you realize, well, there is a life form growing inside of you. And then if it lives through that gestation of 9 months and come out, if it's growing, it has to learn how to sit up had to sit up, it has to learn how to crawl, has to learn how to walk, has to learn how to talk. Then we end up driving cars and doing all kinds of things and flying planes, and we become adversaries, adversaries. Well, where's God? Give me a proof of God. You are the proof. You were an ex-sperm drop.
Yeah.
Here you are developing a human being that can walk, talk, and do all these things, and you asking for evidence?
Yes.
You are the evidence. And that's why we as human beings are threatened to have good behavior, because good behavior is the food for our souls.
Yes.
And just like we might get some soul food, might get us some potatoes and sweet potatoes and some collard greens and steaks or whatever, we call it soul food for our body. That's not the same kind of soul food for the soul. The soul has to be good, doing good deeds. It has to have good manners. It has to treat people the way they want to be treated. You have to want for your brother, sister, what you want for yourself.
Amen.
And so you want to be of a person who is helping your neighbor.
Absolutely.
Not trying to hurt your neighbor.
Absolutely.
But that starts with yourself. That's your self-talk.
They say hurt people hurt people. What about those people?
This abuse is something that when someone is abused, this is a pain. This is something that has happened to that individual, that maybe they trusted someone or they trusted something or something just did something to them to cause a harm for them that they have no frame of reference to overcome. So they carry that resentment. And at some point in time, that resentment has to come out. It may come out at the wrong time. And if it comes out, it's the wrong time, because that resentment should have been dealt with through some mentorship or through some kind of counseling or a better situation, or that person's self-talk should have been different. Because when it comes out, it may come out in different degrees. Sometimes it comes out exploding, and then it may harm a lot of people, not just you, but a lot of people. So we have to learn self-discipline.
Absolutely.
And we do have to ask the Creator, if there's anything, help me. If you are real, help me. I need help. You have to humble yourself and ask.
So many levels to this.
It's
so
a lot of
many
levels to
this.
it. It's all about economics.
Yeah.
This is part of the wealth.
Hey, I'm happy that you brought that up. And that's another thing. Once again, you have taught me so much about self and wealth. Wealth is a foreign language to a lot of our community. And what I mean by that is they treat it suspect. They treat it like it ain't real. They treat it like it's a pipe dream. They treat it like it ain't meant for them. They treat it like it ain't guaranteed. They treat it so many different ways, but the meaning and the substance of wealth. One thing I noticed, and I know this firsthand experience, so many people want to hand me out versus so many people want you to give them some fish versus teaching them how to fish themselves. And I noticed that's part of our mentality that's going to prevent us from getting wealthy, period. How can we get off this treadmill, Shake? And I'm saying this because you're successful. And viewers, I would not sit down on any Joe Blow talking about money if they wasn't successful already. And put me in a position to become wealthy and successful. What can a person do to get off that treadmill? What can they do?
As in our community, the black community, we were taught that money is the root of all evil, and so therefore, even though we need the money so much, it's like we're always holding back to get more of it, because if we do, we feel the guilt complex, and so we just give it away, so we won't feel guilty about it, because there is traditional knowledge is that it'll be as difficult for a rich man to get through heaven as it would be a camel through the eye of a needlehead. But see, the thing is, this is a lot of scriptural language have through translation has lost a lot of the meaning, and so Satan is real, and Satan has the ability to possess us, because Satan is of a smokeless fire, which is called a jinn. Jinn, and they live among us. Jinn live among us. Sometimes you may see a shadow going down the side of the wall or something. They live among us, and they are believers and they are unbelievers just like we are, and they can accept God and be good believers just like we can, or we can go against God and be servants of Satan. And to that, when Satan whispered to us to do something, change the scriptural language so we can control the people and then manipulate them and take from them and then control them and oppress them, or as someone who is get the wealth and then redistribute it.
Yes, sir.
So that balance in terms of mentality, it all goes back to the soul. What is your soul connected? Is the kingdom is the kingdom of God in you, or is the kingdom of hell in you? And so you're going to draw from wherever you are. See, it's not so much, when they talk about the power of attraction, the real power of attraction is not so much what you want and trying to attract that. The power of attraction happens based on who you are at that time. And human beings have the ability to take their game up to a whole nother level.
Please explain.
So you can take someone who busted, disgusted, and couldn't be trusted. I think you've seen that. Have you ever seen the flick Trading Places?
Absolutely.
With Eddie Murphy?
One of my favorites. Yes.
Well, they took and changed them, and based on the knowledge and information and the environment, it changed their self-talk about themselves and had them to think differently about themselves. So we have to change our environment. If we can't change our environments, we got to take those people out of the environment and put them in a more conducive environment that's going to help them to be closer to who they were created to be.
I like.
Which brings that balance again, because that's the core of it. If you go to the gym and you just work your arms and work your legs and not your core, then you're not going to be able to lift as much with your arms or your legs, because your core will be weak. Where the core of the human being is their soul.
Absolutely.
That has to be fed, and you have to you got to practice, you got to pray, you got to meditate, you got to do good deeds. You got to want for others what you want for yourself. You got to be. It's not so much how much you care, the people don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care.
Absolutely.
That's how you become wealthy. And when you do more of that, and you fulfill the services that people will pay for services.
Absolutely.
People want to pay you. But the thing is, and then you got to pay that forward, and you got to train people how to do that. You have to build an army of people that are receiving the abundance, because freely you give, freely you receive.
Absolutely.
And we got to get our people back in that mode, and because we're not in that mode, you're going to have the killings, you're going to have the hatred, you're going to have the backbiting, you're going to have the high divorce rate, you're going to have a lot of killings, a lot of decadence in the society, you're going to have a lot of poverty. Because instead of people redistributing the wealth, they're going to be people hoarding the wealth so they can control you.
Absolutely.
So we have to come back to the cave of our hearts, our soul. We have to go back with Esau ibn Miriam. We call him Esau ibn Miriam, the son of Miriam, Jesus Christ. He said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven through righteousness." Righteousness is fighting the good fight. That struggle with self. Getting your ego to obey the will of God within yourself. See, we say in Arabic that God is closer to us than our jugular vein. And we say Calvin Mukman Beit Allah. The heart of the believer is the house of God.
Absolutely.
Everybody, they said the same thing in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, in the Quran. So how can we think that it's different books? There's only one God. There's only one sky. There's only one oxygen that we all breathe and take benefit from.
And I think division is another reason of a breakdown, not just with theology, but with wealth, with the mentality of man. So even with that, what is a good way to unify? You know, when it comes to one voice, when it comes to what God wants from his children, how can we, it's, once again, I know that's an open-ended question because so many different layers, but what is one thing you would suggest to bring wealth and self-knowledge to all of us under one God, which is God?
Well, one thing about it, you know, success is the greatest revenge, it's the greatest teaching. You gotta drop your buckets where you are. And when you start out helping someone, if I come up to you and I say, hey sir, how you doing, man? How you feel today? Good to see you. You don't even know me.
Yeah.
Next person come to you, what you gonna do?
Probably, man.
You're gonna pass it forward.
Yeah.
So we have a transference. See, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we carry energy. We have megahertz. If you ever walk across a carpet and then touch some metal and got shocked,
Oh yeah. Yes.
we charged.
Mm.
See, and we have power, but we don't give up that power because we shut it down. We allow Satan to shut it down. Oh, don't say nothing to the brother. Don't say nothing. Don't give him nothing. Don't help him. And so we shut ourselves down. See, that's thinking.
Yes.
Because they don't realize that when you give, you grow. When you help, you get help. When you seek, you find. When you knock, it opens. You knock on the door, it opens. We're not doing that. And so this is why, and everybody now, no person is an island. Everybody needs everybody else. When you're born, you come to your mother. You got to come through your mother's womb. You need somebody there to take you. And you need to get to the point where you are so you can like walk around and talk about it and then say, ain't no God. You understand what I'm saying? So, and so this is the irony of our disrespect to the Creator.
Yes.
So you can incur certain bad behaviors and energy around you based on how you're thinking. When your mind is like a master, you the master of everything, you are God, as opposed to a servant of God, it's a whole different mindset, it's a whole different reality, it's a whole different energy, it's a whole different environment.
Absolutely.
You're either going to affect it in a good way, the environment in a good way or a bad way. It's up to you. You got to say, if it's to be, it's up to me. So everyone has to take responsibility to make sure that they do their best throughout the day for everybody else.
Amen.
And what goes around comes around. And we just spread the good news.
That's it. That's it. And that's flavor in your ear. I wish you had all day for this topic. I mean, I love this brother dearly. This man, once again, he has been such a blessing in my life. Once again, I've been doing this for a little while now with these talk shows, but it's particular people that have been making a major impact, and this is one of them. I mean, it would not be no News and Life services without this brother. It would not be so many other things without this brother believing, coaching, teaching. He brought up mentoring. This man constantly mentoring me, and I can be hard-headed sometimes, stubborn sometimes, want to do it my way sometimes. This man, he stuck it out, he sticks it out. I mean, I love you, brother. I love you, man. I mean, and wealth is real. And self, to get the plug, get the log out your own eye and really be able to see the enemy within you and work on that, and see the good in you and work on that, man, it's mind-blowing. Would you like to, I want you to end off with something for the people.
Well, you just said it, you wrapped it up, you know, and what you just said, you know, it starts with self, and it, you know, you should be, in any situation, you should be the one you're looking for, because you're here. You don't have to wait for nobody else. You don't have to rely on nobody else. If you take full responsibility, say, you know what, I'm dropping my buckets here, this is where I do it, if it's to be, it's up to me. And if God is not real, I'm gonna put the pedal to the metal. If God is not real, then I'm gonna be the biggest fool on the planet. But if God is real, we're gonna do some real things. Because that's who I'm believing in. That's who I'm running with. That's who I'm kicking with.
Absolutely. Well, hey, once again, hey, God bless you guys. Flavor, you here. Thank you, Shake
Yes, sir.
Matthew.
Thank you, man.
Love you, brother.
Love
God
you, man.
bless you.
You too,
Hey,
brother.
we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Okay.